She remembered the cold morning as if it were yesterday. The train station was crowded with people rushing to their destinations, and yet the world seemed silent to her tiny heart. She clutched her small, worn-out teddy bear and felt the weight of an invisible sadness pressing against her chest. She remembered the warmth of her mother just moments before the goodbye, the smell of her perfume, the sound of her voice whispering promises that would never be kept. The train whistle echoed like a warning, and then she was alone, the world around her moving fast, and she standing still, feeling the confusion and fear that no 3-year-old should ever endure. She wandered through the station, unsure of what to do. Every face was strange. Every hand extended in passing ignored her presence. The sun rose higher, illuminating the benches and the tracks, and yet she felt invisible. Time passed slowly, each minute stretching into an eternity, the echoes of her mother's footsteps fading into memory. She grew older, learning to survive in the shadows of her own heart, making friends, cautiously building trust, slowly and always. Wondering why she was left behind as the years unfolded, she carried the weight of that abandonment in quiet ways, in the laughter she shared, and the tears she hid, in the dreams she dared to chase, and the fears she refused to name. Yet somewhere deep inside, she nurtured a fragile hope that one day she would understand, that one day she would know why the world had treated her this way. And as she reached the age when a young woman stands on the threshold of discovery and courage, she felt a pull, a subtle whisper that perhaps the story had not ended, and perhaps the answer lay on the path she had once traveled, and she decided that she would drive the long route to that station. The familiar roads, now unfamiliar with the passing years. The houses changed. The trees grew taller. The signs were different. Yet the essence remained the same, and she felt anticipation building in her chest, a mixture of fear, longing, and a strange certainty that the past was calling her. She drove through the winding roads, remembering the days when she imagined her mother waiting somewhere out there. And then she arrived. The station stood quiet, peaceful, almost untouched by time, and her heart raced as she parked the car and stepped out. The wind carried whispers of memory. She walked along the platform, tracing the cracks with her fingers, and then she saw it, a small envelope tucked beneath the old bench, yellowed with age, fragile like a secret waiting to be revealed. She picked it up, trembling her hands, her breath shallow, and she opened it, and the letter inside spoke across decades, telling stories of love, regret, mistakes, and hope. And for the first time in her life, she felt the threads of her past and present intertwining. The tears flowed freely, the emotions overwhelming yet cleansing, and she realized that the journey had only begun, and that understanding her story meant confronting the truths that had been hidden for years. And with a deep breath, she folded the letter to her chest and knew that the next steps would take her into places of her own heart she had never dared to enter, yet with courage she would face them and let the story unfold. She held the letter close, feeling the paper press against her chest as if it carried not just words, but the heartbeat of someone she had longed for all her life. She stepped away from the train station and walked slowly toward her car. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it scents that reminded her of childhood, yet distant and foreign. The sky above shifted colors from soft morning gold to a deeper blue as time moved forward relentlessly. She sat in the car and read the letter again, the handwriting shaky yet deliberate. The words spoke of sorrow for the pain she endured, of choices made in desperation, and of love that had never wavered, a story of a mother caught between duty and fear, and a world that demanded impossible sacrifices. Each line pulled her into memories she had buried, the nights she cried herself to sleep, the birthdays spent wishing for someone to remember her, the small victories she had celebrated alone, the first day of school when she walked with a fake smile, pretending she was not lonely, the friendships that felt fleeting yet necessary. She felt the weight of 2 decades pressing on her shoulders, and yet there was warmth. There too a strange comfort in realizing she was not completely forgotten. The letter spoke of hope hidden in regrets, of apologies never voiced, of dreams left unfulfilled, yet of a desire to connect now, to bridge the distance time had created. She drove along roads she had traveled in her imagination so many times, imagining the moments she could have shared, imagining conversations that never happened, imagining hugs she never received. She reached the edge of a small town. The streets quiet, like memories frozen in time. The houses familiar yet different. The trees, older, taller shadows longer. She stopped in front of a small bakery, a place her mother had once mentioned in a story of a simpler day. She walked inside, the scent of fresh bread mingling with the faint scent of years gone by. The bell above the door rang softly as she stepped in, and for a moment she closed her eyes, imagining her mother standing there smiling, apologetic and full of love. The shopkeeper greeted her with a warm smile, asking if she needed anything. She hesitated and then asked about a woman who had once lived nearby, someone who had loved deeply and made mistakes. The shopkeeper's eyes softened, nodding slightly and pointing toward a quiet street nearby, saying she might find answers there. She thanked her and stepped out the door, the sun now warm on her skin, yet the chill of anticipation still lingering. She walked slowly, as if each step needed to prepare her heart for what was coming. The street led to a small park, the swings swaying gently in the breeze, the fountain trickling quietly, and there on a bench sat an older woman, the lines on her face telling stories of her own journeys, of love lost and found, and of mistakes that had haunted her. She approached slowly, unsure if the moment she imagined would be real. The woman looked up, their eyes meeting, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause, recognition passing silently between them. The woman rose, her hands trembling slightly as she reached out, and she felt the warmth of the touch she had longed for. For 20 years, words were unnecessary. The embrace spoke volumes. The tears that flowed were not just of sorrow, but of relief, joy, forgiveness, and understanding. The conversation that followed was soft, heartfelt, full of confessions, laughter, crying apologies, repeated and understood promises made to never let the years of absence define them. The afternoon faded into evening, and the sky painted itself in soft hues of pink and purple, the streetlights flickering on, casting gentle shadows over the reunion. Yet the emotions burned bright, illuminating every corner of her heart. She realized that the journey was not just about finding her mother, but about finding herself, understanding the pieces of her life that had seemed broken, and seeing them form a mosaic more beautiful than she could have imagined. She walked with her mother through the park, sharing stories of lost moments, of dreams she had chased alone, of fears faced and victories won together. They sat on the swings, reminiscing and planning a future that now seemed possible. The laughter mingling with tears, creating a melody she had never known. She looked at her mother and saw the woman behind the choices, the love behind the mistakes, and the courage that had always been present, hidden behind fear and regret. She felt her own strength growing, the understanding that the past did not define her, but shaped her into someone resilient, compassionate, full of love, and ready to embrace the future. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, the sky a canvas of colors reflecting the emotions swirling in her chest. She knew the journey was far from over, yet she also knew that this step had healed a part of her that had long been wounded. She held her mother's hand, walking slowly toward the car, each step a promise to cherish the moments, to forgive, and to embrace the unknown with hope and courage. And in that quiet twilight, she felt the thread of life weaving them together again, stronger than ever before. The night settled over the town, and she sat beside her mother on the old wooden bench in the park, the air cool and carrying memories of years long past. She looked at the letter once more, tracing the edges, feeling the texture, as if it held all the untold stories of their lives. She thought about the little girl she had been, the loneliness, the confusion, the moments of hope that flickered and vanished, the dreams that seemed impossible. And yet somehow she had survived. She had grown stronger, wiser and braver than she ever imagined. The moon rose, casting a gentle glow on the paths around them, illuminating the past and the present merging. In a delicate dance, she listened as her mother spoke softly, telling stories of the nights spent thinking about her, wondering if she was safe, if she was happy, if she would ever forgive her. The confessions spilled from her mother's lips freely, without shame, without fear, a raw honesty that made her heart ache and swell with understanding. She realized that forgiveness was not a single act, but a journey an unraveling of pain and fear, and slowly the pieces of her past fit together, forming a picture that was painful, yet beautiful. She spoke of her childhood, the hidden tears, the laughter shared with friends, the victories and defeats, the nights she had prayed for someone to come for her, someone to explain, someone to love her fully. And she saw the tears in her mother's eyes as if they mirrored her own, and the words between them flowed like a river, unstoppable, relentless, cleansing every wound that time had inflicted. She remembered the moments that had shaped her, the choices she had made to survive, to grow, to embrace life despite the absence of the person who had brought her into this world. She understood now that love was not always visible, but it could exist in hidden forms, in sacrifices unspoken, in prayers whispered in the dark, in hopes nurtured across years, and she felt a sense of peace she had never known. A calm strength in knowing that the journey had led her here, that the pain she had carried for decades was met with understanding, with recognition, with love that was patient and real. And she realized that the story was not about blame or anger, but about connection and healing. And she took her mother's hands, holding them tightly, feeling the warmth that reached deep into her soul. And together they walked slowly through the park paths, tracing the outlines of their shared history, the trees swaying gently above them, the night carrying secrets of the past and promises of the future. Each step, a meditation, a quiet affirmation that they were together now, and the years of separation could not erase the bond that had always existed, even if hidden. The letter had been a key, unlocking doors. She had not dared to open the words written with trembling hands, spoke of hope, love, mistakes, regret, forgiveness, and an unshakable desire to reconnect. It was more than paper. It was a bridge between their hearts, and she felt the threads weaving together a tapestry, stronger than time, stronger than absence. She spoke of dreams she had pursued alone, the challenges she had faced, the love she had given, and lost, the moments of despair and triumph. And her mother listened, absorbing every word, understanding every nuance, and sharing her own stories. The nights of fear, of longing, of quiet tears shed in solitude, the hopes that had carried her through the years, the love she had felt across miles across. Silence, the moments she had imagined a reunion, and the paths she had planned to follow to find her now. And as the hours passed, the conversation became a rhythm, a symphony of emotion, laughter mingling with tears, joy rising alongside sorrow. Every word, a note, every confession, a chord, every embrace, a crescendo. The stars appeared overhead, silent witnesses to their reunion, casting silver light over the paths where they walked together now. No longer strangers, but a mother and daughter reunited. The air filled with the scent of earth and leaves and distant flowers, and the memories of the past seemed to soften. In the gentle night breeze, she thought about forgiveness again, realizing it was a gift, not just for the other person, but for herself, a release of the burden of resentment, of unanswered questions, of unhealed pain, and she felt it flowing through her body, a lightness she had never known, a freedom to embrace the present fully. The night deepened, yet the warmth between them kept the cold at bay. They spoke of what had been lost and what could be gained, of the future they could create together, of trips they could take, of stories they could write together, of moments to cherish and celebrate. They laughed, recalling the absurdities of life, the strange coincidences, the small joys they had missed, and yet they were here now, and the reality of reunion was sweeter than any dream she had imagined. She realized that love was never too late, that the heart could endure decades of absence and still recognize its counterpart, and she felt tears running freely down her cheeks, feeling the beauty of life's complexity, the way pain and joy could coexist and make the human experience profound and deep. And she shared the secret fears she had carried, the insecurities, the nights of doubt, the wondering if she would ever be loved fully and without conditions. And her mother listened tenderly, holding her hand, as if anchoring her soul to the earth, to the present, to the love that surrounded them. And the conversation flowed on into the night, revealing layers of understanding, of compassion, of empathy. She felt the weight of years lifting with every story, every confession. every embrace, and she realized that the past could not be erased, but it could be honored and transformed into something meaningful, something beautiful, something that could be carried forward with grace and courage. And they walked back toward her car, the path illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights, casting long shadows that danced like memories on the pavement. And she knew that this night would be etched into her heart forever as a turning point, a rebirth, a moment when absence gave way to presence, pain to healing and doubt to love. They drove together along the familiar roads now bathed in moonlight, the houses silent, the trees swaying gently, and she felt a quiet sense of triumph, a courage born not of fighting the world, but of understanding it and herself, a knowledge that she was strong and loved and capable of embracing life fully. And they stopped at a small hill overlooking the town, the lights twinkling below reflecting the beauty of imperfection, the journey of life itself. She looked at her mother and smiled, a deep, profound smile carrying decades of emotion, and her mother returned it with tears and joy mingling. In her gaze they sat together in silence, the night wrapping around them, the stars above witnessing their reunion. The letter still in her hand, a testament to the endurance of love, of hope, of patience, and of the human heart, that even after years of separation could beat in harmony again. And she realized that the journey would continue each day, a step toward deeper connection, understanding, and joy. And in the quiet night, she whispered a promise to herself and to the universe: to live fully, to love fully, to honor the past and embrace the future. And she knew that the story was no longer about abandonment or sorrow, but about rediscovery, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bond between mother and daughter. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, she felt complete, whole, and ready to step into the next chapter of life, carrying the love that had been waiting for her all along, and the journey had transformed her forever.